Hello, Fremont. Thanks for listening. Before we get started with this episode, I want to tell you about Minuteman Press. If you are looking to have something printed, whether it's on paper, signs, postcards, whatever it might be, or you're looking for promotional materials or products, look no further than Minuteman Press in Irvington. They are your quality printer to go to here in Fremont. They help you design what you are looking for if you need that, but then they also print it, and they do it in great turnaround time. I have personally worked with them before, and I find their services to be fantastic. You can find them at 44141 Fremont Boulevard in Fremont. I would like to give a shout out to our other sponsors, Petrocelli Homes and Banter Bookshop. It's these partners that make this podcast possible. Thank you. Now, on to our episode.
We all do the stuff out of our homes. And so all the people that we have a lot of fosters, we have about 40 to 45 fosters at any one time.
Wow.
Taking care of the kittens in their home, and then having adopters go and look, and get kittens adopted through their home. And
wow.
Yeah, so everybody's out of
so
their house.
Everyone, how many volunteers are there?
Coming to you straight from Fremont, California, this is the Fremont Podcast, dedicated to telling the stories of the past and present of the people and places of the city of Fremont, one conversation at a time.
I'm walking in between two houses. Well, I'm walking in between four houses on one of these secret neighborhood pathways. I am a big fan of these little pathways. This one near Victoria Avenue, eventually, once I go across the street here, goes all the way to the Blakehow Neighborhood Park. Fremont has a lot of these. I like them because they are in-between spaces that haven't yet been homogenized. But they are also lovely little ways of getting from place to place on your own 2 feet. Like these slightly windy set of stairs that go from the dead end of Noria Road down into the Ohlone Village Shopping Center. And this one near Country Drive, which is quiet now, but is often filled with teenagers from Washington High School. Oh my. The teenagers cometh across the crosswalk, and I should probably leave them to it. And yes, if you live in the Gomes area, secret little pathways are your everyday. Ooh, a jacket on a tree. I am kicking a tire, and you are listening to episode 108 of the Fremont Podcast.
Now, here's your host, Ricky B.
And so those are the types of connections that you can sometimes make.
Oh, yeah.
Just by reading something, go, I think I might be able to help them.
That's exactly right.
Let's see what we can do, and let's find out a little bit more about the situation. So.
Yeah, that's really good. I think that organizations like the Ohlone Humane Society, I think it's a good example of something that is I guess what I mean is a significant need to be addressed within our community that is, maybe what I'm looking for is a common need. When you have something that concerns pets,
right.
People's pets, or animals that are considered pets, I think that's definitely a common need. And so when you can come together and create an organization around that common need, it definitely does open your eyes, or it causes you to at least start thinking about things in terms of like, what are the needs that are there, and then how can we intervene, or how can we help care for some of those needs along the way, because those are going to become more common, I think, you just have a lot of people have pets, and you have a lot of animals. Like I have a lot of feral cats that are around my house,
Well, it's interesting because animals are, it doesn't matter who you are, what socioeconomic benefits you have to your life, Doesn't matter whether you have a roof over your head or you don't. Doesn't matter what religion you are necessarily. Pets are something that are, our people really have a passion for.
That's right.
And in some cases, especially with the unsheltered and even with people who are just lonely and live by themselves, their pets are their friend, their best friend.
That's right.
And that's who helps them see them through the good times and the bad times. And
Yeah.
so it really does affect everybody. And because of that, I think that's why we can be so successful in finding people to help, as both monetarily and with their time, because it just does affect everybody. And so people that do have the finances are willing to help those that don't,
Yeah.
and those that don't are willing to sometimes put in the time in order to pay back, because it's all about paying it forward.
Yeah, that's right. I was just reading, I have a copy of your mission statement here. It says, Ohlone Humane Society strives to inspire respect and compassion for all animals, advocate for their interest and welfare, and instill in our community that all living beings have a right to be treated humanely. And I think that, like, what you're saying is truly a reflection of that, being able to provide an opportunity where people who care for pets, they are connected to pets. And in many cases, a pet is more than just a nice thing, and more than just
more than a mouth to feed.
Yeah, that's exactly right. In many cases, pets are like someone's lifeline.
Right.
So I grew up in the Midwest, and I grew up in a farming community, and so, like, for me, when I consider pets, I could say I've had pets most of my life, but as from a farming community, the dogs stayed outside. They, most of the time were chained up or fenced in.
Pigs you raised and then you ate.
Yeah,
the chickens you raised and then you ate.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So for me, like, I had a pet. My first dog that I would say was my dog. He stayed in the back. She stayed in the backyard. It was a fenced in area. We never allowed them in the house, but I spent a lot of time with them. And it was a dog that I loved, and because I say them, we bought a pair of sister dogs. They were mutts that we got on an ad, but they beautiful, and I had them for a year. My sisters were the owners of one of them, and I was the owner of the other one. We had them for years, but I grew very connected to my dog. I think people would label me to be like an insensitive, uncaring pet owner because of the way that, it was just, they were outside, and we had a dog house for them, and, whatever. But it was, but when I look at the way pets are viewed today by a lot of people, it's very different than what I grew up.
It is, but it isn't. I mean, it is in some of the communities, but you go back to the Midwest, it's still the same thing, right?
Yeah.
You go up into other Sonoma County, it's still the same. You go into the districts, it really depends on where you are. And to me, there's no right or wrong, because I've had both inside, I have outside. I currently have both inside and outside pets, cats, and they're suited for that life. It's a life they chose, I'm not choosing for them. Yeah. They choose it. The ones that are inside are very happy because they I can open the door and they don't even go out there. Like, no, why would I want to go out in that big old cold place? But it is a little different because there are some people that go to extremes and they take care of their pets. But we're just here to basic. And when we got started in 2017, I shouldn't say started, but when I got involved in this, it had to do with when we found out that the shelter was euthanizing more animals than the community really realized. And so the community as a whole kind of got up in arms and ended up meeting and talking about it. And so got involved to say, what can we do? How can we help? And so it's evolved a little bit, but it was really focused then on the cats and doing Trap Neuter Return, and then kittens. But we've now evolved the program. So one of the biggest changes that we've had over the few years is our Pet Meals on Wheels program.
Oh.
It was a very small program when it first started. Started with a volunteer, had this idea. She did it from her house, amazing. But then we realized that we could expand it, and we started working with people to expand it, and now it's gotten really big. We're feeding, it's the 8,000 pounds of food a month to different organizations that we're partnering with people now, as opposed to the person who did it all herself. Finding partners where you can get all that out, and finding out how many people, especially during COVID, we found out how many people really needed that food for their pet, and it allowed them to keep their pet.
That's
right?
great.
And now we have our pet therapy program.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah.
I haven't been to too many of them, but they do the read to a dog at the library events.
Oh.
So the kids can go and read, and they're reading to a dog, and the dog is there. We visit hospitals, we visit care homes. I think they visited. They had quite a bit last year. Once again, that program has evolved. So we do a lot of that.
Yeah.
And then our special assistance is kind of our undocumented. You won't find it on our website because we recognize that it's an area that could run out of funding really soon. And that's the area where I talked about helping with the dog.
Okay.
So trying to help people who can't afford it when they have unexpected vet costs is trying to help them. So whether it be that the dog got hit by a car and needs some medicine or some treatment, if you're a low income person and meet all the criteria, then we will help you up to $1,000 with your vet bills. So
wow, that's cool.
So we like I said, it's kind of we talk to the vets about it, so the vets know about it. And so if a vet has somebody that comes in and can't afford it, they refer them to us.
Okay. And
then word of mouth. And now that we've helped a few people in the shelter, word of mouth is getting out there, of course. But it's also an interesting thing because some people don't always know what's best for their pet, right? And so trying to have that middle ground where we're trying to support people, but we need them to understand what their responsibility is as well, that they have some responsibility in this, and we have to do this as a team.
Yeah,
can sometimes be challenging.
Huh. I think it's really, really helpful for me to hear. Back. We'll be right back. There you go. You can hear the rest of this conversation in just a moment. If you need help navigating the local real estate market, contact Petrocelli Homes on Niles Boulevard. With almost 2 decades of experience, this family-owned brokerage is an expert in the local real estate market. Give Jennifer Petrocelli a call. With her wide-ranging knowledge of the real estate industry and expert negotiation skills, Jennifer goes above and beyond for her clients. Jennifer helps her clients make smart real estate decisions that benefit them in the long run. So if you're looking for a realtor who knows what they're doing and who genuinely cares about your needs and wants, reach out to Jennifer today and discover why Petrocelli Homes is the right choice for all of your real estate needs.
Banter Bookshop has a morning book club, and it's going to be Wednesday, March 27th at 9:30. And the Banter Bookshop Morning Book Club selection will be a different kind of club, the Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. The book club is going to be limited to 25 people, and you do need to RSVP. So go to banterbookshop.com to do that. If you're going to be part of the club and read the book, please buy the book from Banter Bookshop. And if your purchase of this book is made in conjunction with this book club, you will get 15% off the title. Wednesday, March 27th at 9:30. For more information, to sign up, banterbookshop.com/events and scroll down just a little bit. Banter Bookshop is located in Fremont on Capitol Avenue.
And now back to our conversation. So what exactly is the Ohlone Humane Society and what is it not? Like, what is it that, there definitely seems to be a lot of advocacy.
We are a rescue.
Okay.
And we are mostly focused on cats, cats and kittens, because we don't have a physical location, because we don't have a physical shelter. We have no place to put them. Dogs, you have to have a place to put them. And so we are focused on cats as a shelter. Now that's one of it. And we have a Trap Neuter Return team. We have a foster kitten team. We have the ones I talked about, Pet Meals on Wheels, special assistance, pet therapy. But one thing a lot of people don't know, that we do have a physical building. We do have a wildlife rehabilitation center.
Really?
Yes. And that is a physical building. Not open to the public, because with wildlife you can't be open to the public. And it's located actually in Newark. And they've been around. They're the ones that have been around for probably the longest. But any wildlife, foxes, raccoons, squirrels, we just had some baby squirrels. We've had people bring us like little skunks where the mother got hit by a car and the babies were there, so they would bring the skunks and we would raise them until they can be released into the wild. So it's all about rehabilitating owls. We've had owls, we've had all kinds of stuff there. And so we rehabilitate them. Ducks. We have ducks with a little pond and stuff for the ducks. And then once they can be released, they get released out. And so we are, I don't know if govern is the right word, but we're under the the California Department of Wildlife, Fish and Wildlife, managed by that. That is actually the manager there of the Wildlife Center has to be certified and all of that.
Really?
So they are she is a paid employee, and we have one person who helps her who's a paid employee. But other than that, we are all volunteer based. And we all do the stuff out of our homes. And so all the people that we have a lot of fosters, we have about 40 to 45 fosters at any one time. Taking care of the kittens in their home, and then having adopters go and look, and get kittens adopted through their home. And so everybody's out of their house.
How many volunteers are there?
So we have about, I'm going to say we have probably 60 to 80 active volunteers. Our Trap Neuter Return team has grown in 2023. It grew. It had gotten kind of small in 21, 22, with only probably about 10 people. And now I'm going to say we're probably closer to 15 or 20 that are actively working with us to trap those that. So it's two services. One is, and once again, we've learned that we're better to partner with people. It's the whole thing about teach somebody how to fish rather than just give them the fish, right? And so the trapping team now, while they will, you can put in a request if you have a feral colony that needs help by you and you want help, you can put that request in. It's a long list and takes a long time to get to you, but there is that. Or we can teach you how to trap yourself. And we will, the team has some extra traps and things like that they can give people. They teach them how to do it. We have vouchers that we provide. So you can get a voucher for $60, so you can get a cat fix, and then Ohlone pays the remaining amount. That's still a lot of money, though, with some of these colonies. You've got 20 cats in a colony. To get them all fixed is really expensive.
So I guess I'm curious what happens once they get trapped. Like, what's the process? Like, either you trap them or you teach somebody how to trap them. What happens to them after that? Then
so what we tell people is you don't want to trap until you have an appointment to get them fixed. So let's say we call a month ahead and we get all the appointments for the month for our team. And then our team goes out. Once you trap them, it's usually the night before the appointment. You keep them in your garage or someplace overnight. You bring them somebody brings them over to the vet to be fixed. Someone picks them up in the afternoon, and then they're what we call recovery. So they're either recovered one night in a house or 2 nights, depending on whether male or female. And then they're released back to where they were trapped.
So it's not like they're trapped and removed from like the community. It's like they actually it's more or less trying to keep the population down. So they're trapped for the purpose of maybe doing evaluation or like taking care of the reproduction.
It's all about taking care of the reproduction. So whether you know this or not, but once you fix a community cat. They're called community cats now too, instead of feral.
Okay.
Although some people will call the community cats the friendly ones that are outside, and then they call them feral if they're not the friendly ones. But they'll have their ear tipped when they're fixed.
Okay.
And so a lot of times you can tell when they're fixed or not. Okay. The hardest part is, if you have a colony of 20 cats and none of them are fixed, it's easy. You can get a bunch of them fixed right away. But then when you get some fixed and you got to get the remaining, then it gets a little bit more challenging to get the right cats to go in the trap.
So what you're saying is like if there's like I've got, I think probably 5 cats around my house that I see on a regular basis. So you're saying that if I'm out of all of my neighbors, everyone on my street, if I'm the one that decides I want to take responsibility for them, then there's a certain, then I would go out and either go through the process of getting them trapped, whether I did that myself, learn how to do it myself, or whether I had you guys do it. But then I pay for that, but then you guys also chip in and help out with that as well. Okay.
Correct. And what we get some people doing lately, you'll see GoFundMe's out there.
Okay.
And the GoFundMe can work 2 ways. You can give it to a person, you can give it to an organization. So we have had people do GoFundMes that go straight to Ohlone, and then we track that. And every cat they bring in, we don't charge them. We take it out of the money that they raised. Okay. And so we tell them as a community, a lot of communities, we say, go to your neighbors, put a flyer in. I'll bet you if you're willing to take on the responsibility to get this work done, they'll help you.
They will help you
pay for it. But just give them a flyer, make it really easy. We can even do it like a QR code on a flyer that automatically goes to the link on Ohlone that says we did one at Union City Flats. This is for Union City Flat cats. Okay. And we can track all of that to help neighborhoods do that. So we're trying to help people do the work themselves, but they need to be part of, as usual, they need to be part of the process. They need to take some accountability. And as long as, the good thing is, once they're fixed, they all get together. They all get along. Otherwise, they would have moved on, right? The problem is when you get people that are being dumped. And, that's what's happening these days. Oh, really? Where people are getting evicted, losing their housing. They can't take their animals with them. So they're just letting them go.
As I've started to go to the pet store here in Centerville, they were talking about finding these rabbits, especially during COVID. They were just finding these rabbits running everywhere, and they were pet rabbits that people were letting go because they couldn't take care of them. And there was somebody who I met in there that she was like, that was her thing, was just going out and catching these wild rabbits or these pet rabbits and that had been let go and trying to find a home for them. And it was just like, what do you do with that?
It's amazing to me how many people get little pet rabbits for the kids for Easter, and then 2 months after Easter, you see a lot of them out there.
Wow.
Hello, Fremont. I'm remembering back to the first episode of this season, episode 103. It was the wood turning episode, and the guest, Brad Bond, said something about what a community chooses to support and how that reflects upon the community.
And I think that there's something really cool about that, and I also think that there's something of value to a community that chooses to support somebody who is looking to obtain mastery of craft.
That's great, right? That's great.
And I think that the value goes beyond, like, we all get nice bowls or nice shoes or whatever it is. I think that there is substantial cultural value in being able to support somebody through the beginning stages of something, because the eventuality reflects well on the community.
Oh, that's good.
This is season 3 of the Fremont podcast. We are still fairly new to this game, and I would like to not have this be the final season. I would like this to be the beginning of our craft. I think the guy with the lathe has a point when he says it can reflect well on a community when a community chooses to support things that are at the beginning stages because they can see the long-term value. We are trying to entertain you, and we are also trying to foster community in, honestly, a space and a time where it's very easy to be isolated. We are asking for $1 a month from our listeners. buymeacoffee.com/the the Fremont Podcast/membership. One very small dollar a month, here at the beginning, so that this beginning isn't the end.
The cats around my house, my son has names for all of them now. They'll come and sit in our back little patio area, and
especially when it's sunny.
Yeah, they'll come and just sit out there.
Well, you should have your son start checking their ears,
okay,
and having him figure out which of his pets have been fixed and which haven't.
Okay, yeah.
And then he can watch to see if that changes.
Okay.
Because that's what you don't want to see if you don't want to see it grow.
Yeah, yeah. So by that, it's interesting. So the idea, in some sense, you're trying to do what's good for both the community and these animals, just to make sure that they're not, that things aren't getting out of control, and that they don't become pests more than anything, I guess. So
yeah, and the male cats are the big cats, and if they're not fixed, they tend to get more fights. Yeah, and so once they're fixed, they settle down a little bit. You don't have as many fights. So when you're hearing fights in the yard, you know that you have a tomcat in there. Yeah, and and so you get a lot less fights. You get a lot less animals getting hurt. And then over time. Yeah. Then hopefully you get more of a managed colony. Yeah.
How does the more, I guess, domesticated animals, what were you saying? Not feral cats, but what was the other one? Community cats. So how do those interact with, say, what is the relationship like with the wildlife community in our city? Because you've got I've got raccoons that are constantly in my backyard, and they're looking for everything. I've got possums, I've had skunks. We've had, mountain lions that come out of the hills right down here on Mission Boulevard. Like, are there concerns with these community cats being plentiful, I guess, in that sense, maybe drawing wildlife out? Like, have you seen any kind of issues or things like that are of concern?
No, I haven't seen any issues where they would draw the wildlife out. But, there are people that live in the hills here, and when they have outside animals, they tend to not have a long lifespan. Okay. So the community, the feral cats end up having a much shorter lifespan out there. Yeah. The biggest thing right now, when they're an adult cat, they sometimes can, they know to run from a raccoon and they can go hide. Right. It's the kittens. And that's what happened. Like last year, we ended up taking in, it was a litter of 5 kittens that was in somebody's yard, and we were full. And we said, we don't have any fosters, we're full. Next thing we know, a raccoon took one of the kittens away, and they would have taken more. Oh, my goodness. And so then we're like, okay, we'll figure out where we're putting these 4 kittens. Now it's 5 turned into 4. I think it was 5 turned into 4. And so you do see the raccoons getting the kittens. Wow. The little ones. Okay. So they're very pretty defenseless. Yeah. And need some support.
I know you've mentioned all of this, but I just want to kind of put it into a nutshell. You said that the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center that you guys are connected with, that actually, did it pre-existed Ohlone Humane Society, or because you said that kind of came around first, or how when did everything start, and how did everything come together?
It started in 1983. It's
so
been a long time, and it was
that's Ohlone Humane Society started in 1983. Yeah,
and they were called something else original. Yeah. Maybe Tri-City Friends of Tri-City Animals or something. Okay. But they got incorporated, and the Wildlife Center is actually at the old Tri-City shelter. So they built the new shelter next to the police department, and I shouldn't say it's probably not new anymore. I don't know how many years ago that was. But the Wildlife Center then took over the old shelter over in Newark. And they've had different programs. I don't know totally what they did during that. A lot of it was focused on the wildlife. And then I can only really speak a lot to 2017 when we kind of came in and said, let's focus on the cats and figure out what we can do to help work with the shelter. We were doing we do work with the shelter. That's changed a little bit. We're trying to work with the community to also put some pressure on the city to do more in this area. And so, because at one time they had a vet that would help us that would help fix the cats for us.
Okay.
And so that was much easier to go somewhere local.
Sure.
We now have to go, we are taking cats to San Francisco, Pleasanton, Redwood City. Sometimes we go down to San Jose, but to be honest, they don't always give us appointments and allow us to go there. But we're taking cats that far to get fixed.
Wow.
Because there aren't enough vets in the area, or enough vets who are willing to do fixing cats for a rescue.
Wow, that's interesting. So, how many cats are you dealing with usually, like in a year, like, or in a month or whatever? Like,
I think we had 300. We did I think we fixed 300 cats last year.
Wow.
And it's changed each year depending on how big our team is. But we also, the other thing we do have is a voucher program for low-income families.
Okay.
So if you own your own pet, but you're considered low income, we also will provide you a voucher so you can get your animal fixed as well.
Okay.
And we don't necessarily count those in the same numbers. To be honest with you, our numbers are all on our website. We're very transparent about that. But we also have those that we fix. So it's called the Spay and Neuter program, and it's to try to help people be responsible with their pets. And hopefully the cost isn't what stops them from doing that. So.
Yeah, that's great. And we'll have links to your website and anything else that helps people connect with you in the show notes on this episode.
And please connect. I will put a plug in for volunteers.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, it's really rewarding work. And the one thing that's nice about it is there's no set time. We're not telling you got to work 5 days a week or 5 hours a day. There's really all kinds of work to be done. Whether you like working with animals and you want to foster for kittens, that's a great way to have an animal for a short period of time, but not full time. You want to try it out. You want to see what it's like. It's a 4 to 6 week type of arrangement. But we also have admin work. We need people to help us just do administrative stuff. And so you can work from the luxury of your house as long as you have a computer and have a link and can get emails from people. You can help us go through invoices and reconcile bills or put together these vouchers. We have to write up the vouchers when we do things. Can write up vouchers. There's a lot of different type social media, fundraising. If you like to put on events, we need people to help us do the events at different places. So there's a lot of different opportunities for people. We're also trying to put together, we have a humane education program with the schools, and we're doing a lot of stuff with the schools now because our belief is that if we can teach the kids today to understand animals and to respect and to be compassionate with animals, they'll grow into adults that do the same.
That's great.
And so we have a lot of humane education, and we're trying to put together some youth volunteer opportunities. We do, like with our Pet Meals on Wheels, we need people to package food up. And so sometimes the kids can do that with their parents. And right now we're doing it on Tuesdays and Saturdays. And looking for volunteers to help package food for us so that we can do the distributions too.
So it sounds like there's really a lot of opportunities for people to volunteer, and even for, I don't want to marginalize or label anybody, but even for people who don't necessarily like animals or like pets, they could still, help in the community with this without having to directly deal with animals.
If they don't want to be petting a pet or taking care of a kitten, yes, there's still lots of opportunities to help us.
Well, that's great. And they can find out the process for becoming a volunteer. They should be able to find on the website.
It's all on the website. And we have resources on the website for people that might need different resources. There's other resources for where they might get help. And then we do have an info line, and we need people to cover our info line. That's another example of where we need somebody that would just work 4 hours a day, and basically it's taking messages and calling people back and distributing the call back. So it's once again it's straightforward stuff and easy to do, and anybody can help us.
I think you said that you already have, like, when you were talking about volunteers, you listed between like 60 or 70, but when it's volunteer work, 60 and 70 may be good on one day, but on another day, it may be nothing, And so I think that the more people that are willing to get involved, I think the lighter the load is for the people who are giving more of their time and attention to the work that you guys are doing. So I definitely think that, even if I can just give an hour or 2 hours a week towards something like that, it's an hour or 2 hours of attention that you can give that wasn't already there before. Correct. So that's really great. Yeah. Totally. So I'm with Diane Shaw, and you are the president of the Ohlone Humane Society. And you've been the president since 2017. Is that what you...
No, just last year I became president.
Okay, but you've been connected with the Ohlone Society since then. Okay. Yes. You grew up in the area here?
I didn't. I moved out here after college.
Okay.
I actually grew up. I actually was born in Massachusetts.
Oh, very cool.
But moved to the Midwest, Minnesota.
Oh, nice.
And actually went to high school and college in Minnesota, and then got a job out here, and then never left.
Okay.
So
and you are a volunteer as well with this?
Yes.
Okay, so so being a president is not paid.
Doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Other than more time.
That's right. So what kind of things have you found yourself doing in the area then? Like when you moved out here, worked a job, did you move to Fremont, or where did you move to in the Bay Area?
Originally I went to work for United Airlines, and so I originally lived on the peninsula for a couple of years, but I moved to Fremont because this is where I could afford to buy a house back in the 80s. Yeah. And I've been in the same house since then.
Wow.
So,
very cool.
And it's interesting because from a community perspective, I never was that involved in Fremont.
Okay.
To me, it was where I live, where I slept at night,
Yeah.
But to be honest, probably in the early 2000s, when I changed jobs and started getting more involved in different things, I did start getting involved in social activities. And then when I retired, people think about retirement. They say, I don't know what we'll do. I can tell you, there's lots of things to do when you retire. When I retired, I really became involved in the community, gotten involved in a lot of nonprofits, with the Fremont Elks and Fremont Kiwanis, and then doing a lot of nonprofit work. And so through that is where you meet other nonprofits and you learn what this community really has to offer, which is really great. And then I am elected. I also got elected to the AC Transit Board of Directors.
Okay. Wow.
And so,
and how long have you been doing that?
Since 2018.
Okay.
And that really gets you involved in the community. and so all the different hats I wear, it's great. This is a great community. I love being here.
Wow.
And there's a lot to offer, and there's a lot to offer that people don't know about. And I think this podcast that you're doing and the conversation we were having earlier about learning different people and understanding where they both come from and what they do today, you learn a lot about what's in this community that you didn't even know existed.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's what's really, really good.
Yeah, I think there's different things that are kind of like the catalyst for that happening for people, especially who've lived here for a long time. And that is like people become, like people who've lived in a particular area for a while. They kind of have their routines. They get in a particular rut, and I say rut, I don't mean that necessarily in a negative way. I just mean it like I know it's what I do. It's where I go. And then I have found that for people moving into the area, sometimes they know things about the community. And I felt like that was me when I moved here, was because I moved here about 10 years ago. I came in and I would talk to people. I was like, "Oh, did you know this? And what, have you ever been to this?" And they're like, "I've never heard of that." And I'm like, "What? You've lived here? How long have you lived? I've lived here my whole life. You've never been." And what happens is I'm looking at it through fresh eyes and I'm trying to discover new things. Whereas somebody who's lived here for a long time is like, I didn't even know that existed, And so I do think that there is a helpful. There are these. Kind of like these mechanisms, I guess, if you will, that kind of like cause us to be aware of new things. So like maybe for you, even retirement being one of those mechanisms that like caused you to shift and look through a different lens.
I knew I couldn't stay home all day long. And so it's like, what am I going to do with my time?
Yeah.
So starting to look at that and then realize, and the more you get involved, the more you get involved.
Yeah. Right.
Because you learn more about what's going on. You go, oh, well, that's really great. I want to help there. And you see all the areas that you can help with. Yeah. Everybody needs help. And so I tell people retirement's great because you get an opportunity to do the things you want to do, not necessarily sit home, but go out and help people, help students. If you like to work with kids, go work with the schools. If you like to work with adults, go work with some of the places here that need it. So
that's great.
Yeah,
and I do think that you were saying earlier, which I find interesting, when you go to a place and you work as a volunteer with other volunteers, you start finding out things that they're connected to or passions that they have, that all of a sudden there's like this cross-pollination that begins to happen, where you're like, I helped out with the Tri-City food pantry or whatever. Right. And then it's like, what else do you do? Well, I volunteer over this. Oh, really? I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know that existed. And so when you start hanging around people who have whose mind and passions are bent toward a healthier community, you start discovering things that, oh, well, that's cool. I want to know more about that. I want to be more involved.
And then
in
you
that.
share it. I mean,
that's right.
That is the one good thing. I mean, I will say that on some of the different social things, I will share things and go. People will say, I need help with this. Did you know we had this? Did you know this service was available to people? And a lot of times people don't know these things are available to them.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's cool. I really appreciate your time and all the information you've given. You've served the community, it sounds like, for a little while now, and I think that's really cool. Is there anything particularly that you yourself, apart from like some of the other things that you've been involved with as a volunteer, or becoming an official with the AC Transit, is there anything particularly that you have discovered over the last, I don't know, maybe decade, that has been especially I guess I'm using the same word. Is there something that's been a special discovery for you as a Fremont resident that has been new and fresh and exciting for you?
Well, the one thing I'll say, working with Ohlone, that I have found is this is a very giving community. Not just, but financial as well as other things. When people need help, they come out. And I'll this is not in our community, but was very close to me, the Lahaina fires over in Maui.
Yeah, right, right.
We said we need to help. There's some issues over there with the cats, and we won't go into that. But it's like, I want to be able to help over there. And so I put out a response, and this community came through.
That's awesome.
And so whenever you really have a need, if you put it out, this is a very giving community.
That's great. I love that.
That's been great.
I love that. Well, I appreciate you and the work that you're doing. Thank you for your time and sharing your story, a little bit of your story and the perspective here with the podcast. And like I said, if people want to know how to be more involved and want to learn more about the Ohlone Humane Society, we can look in the show notes, or they can reach out to you and get plugged in.
Please do. www.ohlonehumanesociety.org.
Awesome.
A lot of stuff there, a lot of good stuff. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Diane.
This episode was hosted and produced by Ricky B. I'm Gary Williams. Andrew Cavett is the editor. Scheduling and pre-interviews by Sarah S. Your reviews help other people find this podcast. If you would, please leave a review on iTunes. Be sure to subscribe wherever it is that you listen so you don't miss an episode. You can find everything we make, the podcast, and all of our social media links at thefremontpodcast.com. Join us next week on The Fremont Podcast.
This is a Muggins Media podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Fremont Podcast. If you are an individual or a business that would like to be a sponsor partner on the podcast, please reach out at thefremontpodcast@gmail.com, or you can go to our website, thefremontpodcast.com, and you can reach out to us through our contact form. Thank you for listening, thank you for sharing, and thank you for your support.